Yes, well, I know how they feel. It really is an enchanting place, Hong Kong, I must say. But there we are, those Chinese children settling down as best they can in Kent. And now it's time to join Peter Clark for this week's Complaints Box.
So you go out to a do and you leave your coat in a hotel cloakroom, and come the end of the night and the coat is missing. Now then, is that just your bad luck, or is there a legal comeback? Now, this lady shopkeeper from Sussex wants to know. Mrs. Gwen Wagner from Ninfield Road at Sidley in Bexhill-on-Sea tells me her coat was missing after a private dinner dance at the 4-star Cumberland Hotel at Eastbourne last September. It was, she complains, quite some loss, because the coat was a beaver, which she reckons is worth about £400. Ironically, when everybody had left the function, a coat did remain. It was a beaver, but it was an imitation beaver. Alas, its owner has never turned up. A mystery indeed for the Cumberland Hotel's proprietors, Mr. and Mrs. George and Elizabeth Kay. Mrs. Kay said there'd been no charge for cloakroom tickets that night and wondered how this affected the situation. She also said that she'd been awaiting the results of inquiries by the function organisers. Mr. Kay had thought Mrs. Wagner was insured anyway. But he did say that if Mrs. Wagner had been staying overnight at the hotel, he might have been liable under an innkeeper's law. Apparently, the hotel's insurers refute liability because the cloakroom was unattended at the point at which Mrs. Wagner collected the coat. Mrs. Wagner's insurers have backed out because the coat was not stolen from her home. Now, Mrs. Wagner, let me ask you this, just in case any doubting Thomas is watching tonight. Yes. Could you prove beyond doubt that the coat at that hotel is not your coat?
Yes, because members of my family know my coat and know what it is like.
The cloakroom was unattended when you went there, was
Yes,
it?
yes.
I see.
Yes.
Now, you bought a coat which is similar to the one that was taken, missing.
Yes, yes.
Tell us something about it.
This is a short one, similar to the one I lost, apart from its length. And, of course, it had a very large collar with cape sleeves.
I see. So if anybody watching now was at that do on September 25 last year, let's hope they check their coats. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, OK, who does carry the can in a case like this? Is it always the hotel? But who is it? Let's have a word from our legal friend, Stephen Gold.
If you leave something with a cloakroom attendant to be looked after, then reasonable care must be taken of it. That's whether you pay or you don't pay. That applies to a coat left at a hotel as it would apply to a ribbon stick left at a disco cloakroom. On Mrs. Wagner's story, the court would say there was a presumption this hotel had been negligent, so it would be left to a hotel to try and prove otherwise. Not easy. But there's still a problem for Mrs. Wagner. Hotel tell me they had a notice in the cloakroom which in effect said they wouldn't be liable for valuable items left in the cloakroom. Now, the law changed 13 months ago. These notices no longer automatically clobber you. To be effective, the hotel would have to prove that this notice was reasonable. My guess is that they wouldn't manage it. In the first case of its kind under the new law, a man who sued a nightclub after his coat had disappeared from their cloakroom has just won his case in the Oldham County Court, and that was despite one of those notices. So for Mrs. Wagner, reasonable prospects of success.
The well-established and highly respected Cumberland Hotel make it very clear to me that they'll act absolutely honourably as always. So Bexhill's Mrs. Wagner is assured of a fair deal.